Okay, we've got time for just one more question, so there's a wait from here. Here we go.
Hi there, this is a question for Tom. Stuck at the front. I should stand.
There you are, sir.
I'm just hiding. Just really when you mentioned about being a kid when you first did Back to the Future.
Yes.
And obviously you're surrounded by a lot of fans, grateful fans. Have you ever been starstruck yourself when you were starting out? And also, Christopher, we'd love to hear any stories about Jack Nicholson as well.
He's asking you maybe a Jack Nicholson story. What was it like working with him? He's asking you about Jack Nicholson. Go ahead, go for Jack Nicholson.
Thank you for the question. I kind of idolized Jack Nicholson before Cuckoo's Nest. 5 Easy Pieces, The Last Detail, and others. I just thought he was amazing, and I sort of idolized him. So when it came to be that I was actually in a movie with him, I was blown away. And the way he worked with everybody else, because most of us in the film, maybe we'd done a couple of independent films, but most of us had done no film. So he just very gently became aware of everybody and where they were at, and nourished everybody in the cast to give the best performances they could. But he was very aware. Well, I just remember we were doing a scene, the bath scene in the movie, when he takes the hose and he sprays everybody. And we were about halfway through the scene, and we broke for the weekend. And William Redfield played the intellectual kind of guy, and I'm jabbing him, you know.
Play the game,
and all that. And William Redfield was ill. He was hospitalized, and ultimately it turned out he had a terminal illness. There was a big question of whether he was going to come back or whether they were going to pull the plug on the film or whatever. He came back about a month later, and we finished the film with him. But a month later, they picked up that scene in the bathtub, in the bathroom, and I just couldn't get back into it. I couldn't find the groove, find my mojo, or whatever the expression is. I just was kind of wallowing, and I knew I didn't have it, and I was getting very uptight about it. And between one of the takes, Jack Nicholson just kind of sidled over to me, and he muttered a few words in my ear. I don't remember what they were, but it put me right back on track. And I thought, this guy is paying attention, and he has the generosity to be there for you when you need it. So I have a huge admiration for the work that he's done. And I know he retired not so long ago, 3, 4, or 5 years ago. And I've heard that he's doing another film, that a script came along, and he is, caught his imagination, and so I'm really looking forward to that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and for me, I've been starstruck so many times. I've got a star concussion. From coming into, I did stand-up comedy, for so many years. So coming into Hollywood, auditioning at the Comedy Store, and the next night I was literally on a show with Richard Pryor and Robin Williams, and these people. It's like just the who's who of comedy. And I was about 20, 21 years old, just on stage. I mean, I had this little improv group, and we're doing these improvisations, and Robin Williams just bounces on the stage and gets right into the scene with us. And you're trying to continue the scene, but you're also thinking, this is Robin Williams in the scene. So I was starstruck with that. working on Back to the Future. I come into Chris was, you remember the show Taxi? So I still think, and I told it to him, what does a yellow light mean? That scene from Taxi is akin to me as a comedian to Lucille Ball going to the chocolate factory. It's one of the very classic scenes. So Chris is on there, and I was trying not to talk to him too much or something, trying not to get in his way, because he was a big star. But most recently, if I could say, and now you get to a point where you're a professional, and you work with many actors, and they're normal people. Well, some are a little abnormal, but most of them, they have families and things. So it becomes your job. It becomes what you do. But a number of months ago, I hadn't done conventions like this in my life. I hadn't done it. And at the convention, in the green room across the way, was Adam West. Adam West, who played Batman. The first Batman, the best Batman, the original Batman. And I didn't even look in his direction. And finally, and Adam at that time was, maybe 90 years old, and he was still very, very fit, but he was riding a scooter, so he rode behind me on the scooter. And I said, I turned to him and said, Mr. West, I just have to say hello. My name is, and he said, I know who you are. You're Tom Wilson. I'm a big fan of yours. And I just thought, Batman knows my name? And if I may, and this is, I haven't, I'll tell you. It was very close to when he passed away. And he was in the green room, and he calls me over to him. And it was wonderful. I sat with him on the sofa, and we had a wonderful conversation, and it was just terrific. And I said at the end, I said, Mr. West, I would not call him Adam. He kept saying, call me Adam. Mr. West, something happened to you in your career that happened to me. In a lesser degree to me, but it happened to you. You galvanized the audience around something that was very, very powerful. And in a sense, that's how they identified you. Like it or not, you're Batman. But I want to thank you, Mr. West, for dealing with it with humor and grace and being a gentleman about it and reaching out to people. And that's been a great example to me. And he just shook my hand, He just shook my hand as a fellow actor, understanding that, and that just meant the world to me. And then, and then he passed away, but I just can't believe the good fortune of having met him and befriended him and talked to him in such a way as fellow professionals. And, it just meant a great, great deal to me. So that was one of the great thrills of my career.
Ladies and gentlemen, show your appreciation once more for Christopher Lloyd and Tom.